All right, all. Welcome to part 4. In this area, we look at a few of the tools that I have set up: my grinder and polisher and belt sander, bandsaw. These are all the tools in the shop that are just going to create a mess, and I want to keep them isolated away from, as much as I can, away from my other tools, so I'm not creating harm to them. So you'll see that layout and kind of, I think, how it comes together as being all in one spot, where also the workflow of a certain operation works really well within that space as well. All right, next is this kind of part of the shop space. So table saw is here. Behind it, I've got a planer. So that allows, and it's on wheels, right? So both of these are on wheels. I can move them and shift them around and get them into the spot wherever I need them to work best. But it works well into this area where I am doing bulk of the woodworking. That would be something that, because it's on wheels, I wouldn't run it over there. Just space-wise up against the wall it's just not the spot for a planer. But I'd be able to move that out and get that set up into the right spot where I feel I can do it, which could even be in a driveway depending upon which job I'm doing. But that gives me a lot of flexibility having that on wheels. It does keep it pretty close to nearby on here. Here is my kind of one of my favorite tools here. I picked this up. A couple buddies of mine were closing down their fab shop where they were creating some parts for some motorcycles, and this was one of the equipment pieces left over, and I just absolutely loved it. It was something I was after. It's basically a grinder polisher. Big old piece from the 40s. It's just awesome. It just does its job, and it does it well. When I got it, 220 220 3-phase, which wouldn't work here. And so what I ended up doing was adding a VFD to it, which A, allows me to run it here, but B, it gave me the ability to adjust that speed down to whatever it is that I was working on. It's a phenomenal thing for getting surface finishes right on some of the metalworking parts that I'm doing. So that has been just an awesome piece. Every time I turn it on, it just runs the way it's supposed to do. They just don't make things anywhere close to as good as that is. Back over into this area is, and it really starts with this piece here moving over. It's the messy area, right? This is where things are going to get kind of dirty, and you don't want this stuff getting into your other machines around the shop. So I've got the mini belt sander with the small disc sander, little 6-inch, and so on and so forth. I have that set up permanently for metal finishing. So it just keeps that type of paper and band connected to it, which is nice, kind of wet dry piece in there with a really fine finish. I also have a bench grinder, so set that up where I've got typical grinding wheel along with a Scotch-Brite wheel on the other side. Allows me to get things to size, also allows me to get that finish that I'm after on that. And then lastly over here was taking the bandsaw, just again picking this one up at Harbor Freight, getting no affiliation with them. And then a company called Swag 4x4, I think if I got their name correctly, makes this really cool bench where you could take that and mount it to it, so it becomes more of an upright. So this works really well for cutting down smaller pieces, and that's mostly what I'd ever be cutting is small pieces. And this gets tremendous amount of use. I have it set up on a foot pedal, so it's really easy for working up, especially since it's mounted. I don't have a lot of control on where the switch is and so on and so forth. So just Velcro the switch down to permanently be on, and I activate it through a foot switch, and then something I said, I have a 6-year-old, so I've got to be super cautious, especially in this area, that none of this stuff is just the foot pedal. It's not just a walk up and hey, next thing I know, I've got to child with missing limbs, right? So making sure that in most cases that, you know, I tend not to have it always powered up unless I know for a fact I'm going to be working in that area. For certain, a bit of a pain where you're constantly having to plug things in and get that going. But it's a whole lot less of a pain, no pun intended, than your kid losing limbs, right? Because you left that in. So this space has worked really, really well. I cannibalized some old wall cabinets that are hanging up on the other side and used those to house all the stuff that goes with these pieces. So it's got all the polishing pads and sandpaper grit and collars and so on and so forth to make all of this function and work the way it's supposed to. And again, threw them on wheels, just grabbed some furniture dollies, threw them onto there, bolted them down. These things can move around incredibly quick and incredibly easy, which also, you know, just allows, if I need to reconfigure, if I need to do some cleaning, because this is a messy area, I can just pull this out, sweep behind it, blow behind it, I'm good to go. We get that spot kind of back to the way it should be on that. So a cool setup in this area. All right, thank you all for watching that part. As we move into the next part of this series, we're going to look at my shopsmith and a little bit of detail as to why I chose that as being one of the main tools within the shop that works well on just kind of a variety of things that I work on. So that will be in my part 5 of the shop tour series.